Well, former President Barack Obama is back on the trail this month, campaigning for Democrats ahead of this year's midterm elections. In a speech Friday, Obama criticized President Trump. This is the first time the former president has mentioned the current president by name in a public address since leaving the White House.
It did not start with Donald Trump. He is a symptom, not the cause. He's just capitalizing on resentments that politicians have been fanning for years.
President Trump said that he fell asleep while watching President Obama's speech. For more on how these final 60 days are shaking out ahead of the election day, we want to welcome our new CBSN political reporter, Caitlin Huey-Burns. Thank you.
Good morning.
We're really happy to have you, Caitlin.
Thank you so much for having me.
I
so
love
excited.
talking to you. I love your insight, so it's great to know that we'll have access to you on a regular basis.
I'm just so thrilled to be with you. Thank you so much.
Cool. So let's get into it. We have former President Barack Obama hitting the campaign trail. There has been a lot of talk over the past few months about President Trump's impact on these midterm elections, the primaries that we've been witnessing.
Right.
What sort of impact do you think President Obama will have?
Well, it's remarkable that he's out on the trail for a couple of different reasons. One, former presidents aren't that popular when they leave office, and President Obama was generally perceived as a popular president while he left office. So he still has a lot of sway with his base, but also, the broader public at this point. And also the fact that he's going to be out on the campaign trail, campaigning for Democrats at a time where they're looking for some kind of leadership, some kind of single figure to kind of lead the party. He's kind of serving as that right now. So what he'll do to galvanize the base will be very important for Democrats across the country. But as we see with Trump, the former president can also be polarizing among some sectors of the electorate. So I think you'll see some Republicans respond to this in their own campaigns.
Right. And what we've noticed with President Trump is he has a tendency to throw his support behind more Trumpy type candidates.
Right.
And we've seen now with some of the recent primaries, Democratic primaries, the election of, some more progressive Democrats here in New York, in Boston, who have really sort of unseated incumbents who are traditional Democrats.
Right.
Any speculation as to who Barack Obama might throw his support behind?
Well, it's interesting because the former president has not been involved in these primaries. He has endorsed several candidates, both for federal office and also for local office. And that's really important because, during President Obama's tenure, 8 years, Democrats just hemorrhaged seats across the country at the state and local and federal level. And so there is a question about how much he can turn out voters, given that he wasn't really able to do so while he was president. The same question applies for Trump, whether he can turn out his own voters for Republicans down the ballot. That remains an open question. It's difficult for presidents to do that, especially Trump's base is so loyal to him and not necessarily the Republican Party.
Right.
So that's why you're hearing the current president, talk about candidates who are just like him, and a vote for them would be a vote for Trump.
How important is this midterm election for the current president? I mean, he's going to be ramping up these campaign-style rallies throughout the fall.
Well, you're hearing a lot from the current president about the specter of impeachment. He's starting to talk about the threat of impeachment from Democrats. It's interesting, though, because Democratic candidates aren't really talking about that on the campaign trail. It's the President Trump and Republicans who are trying to signal to their base voters, but also independent voters or soft Republican voters who may not want to spend the next 2 years, in a battle with subpoenas flying and a battle just more gridlock, trying to appeal to those voters, kind of saying, well, you may not like everything that's going on with the president's behavior, but do you really want Democrats to take control and try to impeach the president and try to undo everything that you, the voter, have wanted to see from the Republican agenda? So you're hearing that a lot from Republicans, not necessarily from Democratic candidates.
That makes so much sense, because I was thinking to myself, why not lead with the accomplishments? Why not lead with the Supreme Court or the tax cuts and all that stuff, which he does, but now that makes more sense why he would also say, hey, listen, there's a boogeyman coming, sort of.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because if you think about it, and the economy is good, and they, a lot of Republican candidates would like to talk about the economy, but there is this question of whether people show up to say thank you just for things being good, right? You don't, call your utility company and say thank you so much for doing your job.
Right.
And so you have to, get people riled up about something, and that's why we're hearing the president talk in those terms.
That is fascinating. Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you so much.
Thank you. Good to be with you.